Welcome to Section 420, Talkin Yankees. And the DJ LeMahieu sweepstakes continue. It seems like, foregone conclusion, he's going to return to the Yankees. Looks like to be a 4 or 5 year deal. This kind of working out the X and O's. Again, the Yankees are probably more towards the 20 million a year mark, and the DJ, of course, and his agent probably more the 25. But it seems like both parties do want to get the deal done. It's just, again, probably crunching numbers. Maybe they'll meet in the middle of somewhere like 23, which kind of sounds reasonable. Again, you're looking at about a 4 or 5 year deal, which, again, the Yankees are fine. You could have him at second base, and again, he's a good defender. But of course, towards the latter part of that contract, it's probably a situation where you're going to want to move him to first base anyway. And then I don't know if you see Luke Voit here for the long term. So it's not a terrible thing. Again, 4 or 5 years, he's always going to be a good hitter. Defense is going to erode a little bit, but that's fine. After the second or third year, you could maybe switch him to be a full-time first baseman, which, again, he's very adequate at first base, very handy. Maybe play a little third, but he'd probably be the first baseman of the future in that regard. Again, they just got to get the deal done. It just seems like Cashman wants to not just like kind of give him a ton of money, kind of say, well, almost reminds me of the Jeter situation going back like 2010 and so forth, where Jeter felt spurned a little bit, and Cashman was like, no, we're going to pay you fair market value. Let's see if other teams offer you a contract. Now, supposedly Toronto's looking at him, the Washington Nationals looking at him. So, if they, they may bump up the price a little bit, but right now it just seems like the Yankees are on the driver's seat just in terms of working out the X and O's. So, probably by, at least, by January, I think that'll probably get figured out and he'll remain a Yankee. So that's good news there. Other Yankee news, kind of important. Gary Sanchez, playing down in the Winter League. His hit a couple of home runs already, has looking sharp. He's got the beard going. Maybe it's the beard. Maybe he'll bring that beard. I don't know if the Yankees allow, but if he hits like that, maybe the Yankees will remove their facial hair restrictions if he starts hitting well. So at least good news to see him hitting down there. Maybe his head's a little clearer. And you got to remember, at least did, last offseason had a little, had his shoulder scoped out. So possibly maybe that's getting strength a little bit, or just maybe just being away from the game a little bit, just cleared his head, and now he's hitting again and being the Sanchez that we hope he, was going to be again when he first came up in 2016 and 2017, when he was just hitting home runs left and right and looked like he was on his way to the Hall of Fame. So not to get soon, but again, if we get a better Sanchez in 2021, again, that's just great news for the Yankees. Now, in terms of other free agent names, and you hear Trevor Bauer out there, which would make sense to the Yankees for a number 2. Just for the fact that, Luis Severino's going to be coming back from Tommy John. You assume he's going to be, the good Luis Severino we had in 2018. But again, come off surgery, you can't just assume it, even though these pitchers have been, recovering well from the surgery and performing at a top level. But still, you don't know. So possibly the Yankees, might want to kick the tires on Bauer. But again, with him, you're looking about 5 or 6 years on a deal like he's going to want. He's about, he's 31, 32 years old. I just don't think the Yankees are going to, pay that type of money. I just think it makes more sense if you're going to take a risk on someone more like a Corey Kluber, which, yes, he's coming off, a torn, tore his shoulder last season. But again, he's a former Cy Young Award winner, and someone like him, you could maybe give him a 1-year deal as an experiment. Hey, if you're good, maybe we'll sign you in the future. And if he doesn't work out, fine, just put him to the trash heap. You still have other capable arms out there like a Jordan Montgomery in the mix, Clark Schmidt in the mix, as well as Davey Garcia. So Bauer's name is better out there. But again, I don't think, again, they're going to spend the money on him after spending all that money on Cole last season and the money they're going to have to spend for DJ. Now, another interesting name, which, I don't really think makes sense. It makes sense from terms of having the lineup. He's a great player, but in terms of what it takes to get him is Francisco Lindor. Now, he's out there, again, a shortstop from Cleveland. We'll talk about Cleveland in a second. But good, would make sense for the Yankees because as a switch hitter, gives the Yankees, at the time they're facing a righty, a left-handed bat in the lineup, which the Yankees, really lacking. The only really left-handed hitters they have is when Hicks is batting left or when they had Guardia in there. So pretty much, a right-handed power pitcher could just buzz through the Yankee lineup, and that's kind of what happened during the playoffs, and that's been what happened in the past couple of seasons. Lindor would give the Yankees a lefty bat, but again, he has 1 year left in the deal. So to even get him, you're gonna have to shell out a boatload. You probably have to part ways like a Torres. You might have to part ways Clint and Torres, and then okay, great, you give away 2 blue chip prospects in their 20s, and you get Lindor. That's great, it's fine. But then, well, he's gonna enter free agency the next year, and then you might lose him. So you have to give up 2 prospects plus, then you might just walk away, or you're gonna have to spend a boatload of money to get him. It makes sense to wait 1 more season, let him hit the free agency market, and then just buy him the same way they did with CC back in 2009. Now, remember, the Yankees were possibly sniffing CC back in 2008, but it was the same situation. You would have to give away some prospects, and then you'd have to give him that big money contract. Cashman was like, why am I going to spend all this money with him? Let him, let the Brewers get him, whatever that, wait till the offseason, and then just buy him and not have to give him prospects, which is what they did in 2009. That's how they got CC. So it'd be nice to have Lindor. I just don't think it's going to happen in that regard because you have to give a prospect. You might as well just wait one more season and just buy him out without giving up your prospects. So we'll see what happens there. But the Yankees really, of course, you always use some hitting, but really Yankees issue is going to be starting pitching. Again, Cole's, you could slot in there number one. After that, it's a lot of question marks. Tanaka, who I thought the Yankees would retain, doesn't seem like there's really any hot offers out there. So again, his days in pinstripes might be, might be gone already. And in fact, he might actually end up with the Mets. I mean, talking about the Mets might be more interesting in Tanaka than the Yankees would be. I don't know if I would see Tanaka want to go into the National League team. I mean, not that it really matters anymore. Because we don't know if obviously it seems like they haven't said that the DH is going to be the rule moving forward in both leagues, but I don't know if Tanaka wants to be in a league where he has to hit again, because he's just pretty much an automatic out. And I don't know if he wants to risk injury, a Chow Mei-Ying situation of breaking his ankle running the bases. So I think with Tanaka would want to stay in the American League, but possibly does go to Queens, which would be kind of interesting. So now getting back to Cleveland, kind of recently, of course, this was coming down the pipe. They've now dropped the Indians name. They will now, it could possibly be the Cleveland baseball team as now. I don't know if that's going to get changed last minute, but it's going to be similar situations with the Redskins. It's now the Washington football team. So now you got the Cleveland baseball team. Again, it was going to happen. A whole bunch of reasons, not going to get into it again, but not shocked that it's going to happen. They might settle on that. I know. I just think if you're going to name a team, give it something. You could be like the Cleveland Crazy Guys, something. I'll give it a name. It's just the word baseball team is kind of lame. I mean, it's just whatever. That's just my personal opinion. So now as for a guest in this episode, we're going to talk about some of these issues with the Yankees as well as his book. His name is Adam King. Now, he published a book this past March called My Concussion Story. It's about a tale he had going through an actual concussion himself several years ago and the road to recovery coming back from that. But he also likes the Yankees. He has a blog called The King Sauce where he discusses the Yankees. And he's available on Twitter as well, where you go follow him. So let's bring him on. Hi, Adam. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure. Now, people can follow you on Twitter at Top Sports Mind, as well as check out your website, The King Sauce. And of course, we'll get into all the sports stuff. But also just want to let people know that you also published a book this past March called My Concussion Story. And I guess, since concussions, maybe more prevalent with football, but, seeing that a little with baseball, specifically the Yankees and Clint Frazier, maybe just give us a little insight into that book, My Concussion Story.
That actually happened. I was playing in a professional softball game. I was a center fielder. Ball hit left center field. I took off after, caught it, turned back around. The fence post was right there.
Ooh.
And I was going top speed. I have Olympic sprinter speed back then. Don't need more, but I used to. Knocked me out. I was on the ground 5.5 minutes, maybe more. Unconscious, and so I'm telling the story about that and the ramifications that it's had on my life since.
And so I guess the process, I mean, let's say you have that, I don't want to give away too much of your book, but all right, you have the incident. What was what happened after that? What was the process you had to go through in terms of recovery and any sort of rehab or anything like that?
Well, the first thing that I was taken to a doctor. He did MRI, checked my brain out, helped me get my cognitive functions back, which that took over 6 months to learn how to walk and everything. Then I had to reteach myself how to work on computers, get my training there back, my training everywhere back, reteach myself how to play the piano and sing and all of that stuff. I had to reteach myself to all the normal things people found normal.
And so I guess, how long was this? Like, when did this actually happen? How many years ago?
It was March 2012.
Okay. And to this day, do you feel, is there still any sort of, symptoms or result, still little things that happen to you now just because of that? It was 8 years ago, but even to this day, do you still have any symptoms that you have to go through for that?
A few symptoms. The doctors declared me 97 to 98% healed. Pay attention, because sometimes when I'm talking, my voice will just freeze. It loses connection to my brain or something. And there's very few things like that that'll still pop up, but most of it's gone. Everything's healed up, other than very few little things like that. Sometimes my memory will lapse a little bit.
I'm glad to hear that. Again, the book is available on Amazon. Again, it's My Concussion Story by Adam King. Now, actually, reason why we'll talk a little Yankees, of course. So you're a Yankees and Dolphins fan. So I mean, where did you grow up, and how did you become a fan of both those teams? I guess one's Miami football, and then of course Yankees baseball.
I grew up mostly here in Salt Lake, Utah. Became a jazz fan right at the back. I started meeting jazz players where we live is very close to the arena, so I got to meet jazz players and everything. And my dad would take us to meet professional athletes whenever he could. And so I met Dan Marino in a mall. He was doing some signing, and he put a Dolphins hat on my head, took pictures with me. I don't have the pictures anymore. I don't know what happened to him. My dad lost them.
Mm.
And then that's when I became a Dolphins fan, meeting Dan Marino and all of that. With the Yankees, I met some minor leaguer who's out here playing a minor league game at the Salt Lake Bees named Bernie Williams. I didn't know who he was at the time. I was 6. I met him. He gave me a Yankees hat. I still have that hat around here somewhere. I don't know where it is. But I loved it. Loved him. He was a switch hitter. I was a switch hitter growing up. Played Little League Baseball as a switch hitter. I met Bernie Williams a second time in minor leagues not minor leagues, come on. Little League when I went out to Williamsport, the Little League World Series. And then, yeah, that cemented me being a Yankees fan and watching the titles in the late 90s.
Gotcha. Now, so I guess you're out there more on the mountain times, West Coast area. So have you been able to maybe see the Yankees on the road somewhere, like maybe in Colorado, something like that? Have you ever gone to an actual Yankee game and see them on the road?
When I was out in Missouri, the Yankees came to play Kansas City. I went up there. My brother lived in southern Missouri. I drove up with my brother. We watched a series there versus the Yankees. When I was down in Houston, the Yankees visited there a couple years ago. I went down. My brother was down in Houston, moved to Houston, so I was able to go to a series there. I've gone out to Anaheim to see a series. Denver, when I drove there, we stopped and saw a series. So I've seen a few.
Cool. So have you been to New York and gone to Yankee Stadium?
No, I really wanted to go to the old Yankee Stadium before they bulldozed it, but didn't get the opportunity.
All right, but it's still pretty cool. You get to see him in all these different places. I'm in New York, so I only get to see him really in New York, but it is probably pretty cool just to see them on the road in the gray uniform, in some different venues.
It was.
And you also have your blog. It's called The King Source. Again, people can check it out, thekingsource.com. When did you start the blog, and what really inspired you to start, discussing sports, not just the Yankees, but in general sports?
Well, the guys at NYY News noticed last offseason how I was right on every move the Yankees were making, brought me in as a writer, and then created a website for me to go onto my own because that'd be a better plan for me than working with their website. And so I thought, okay, we came up with a name, created my site. I came up with all the graphics and everything you'll see on it. I'm going to be changing the design a little bit, adding sections so I could put baseball stuff in baseball, basketball to basketball, kind of section it out to just one long thread of all the articles. Yeah, it's been a fun ride, and I hope to build it up as time moves on.
Gotcha. Now, I saw your latest post, from the other day, and you had a couple of interesting things which I didn't even hear about. Of course, I think it's pretty common knowledge. I think the Yankees are all going to resign DJ, but a couple of interesting trade proposals we saw. Of course, the one that kind of caught my eye was with the Pirates doing a swap with Josh Bell as well as Jameson Taillon for Luke Voigt. And, at first you think, what does it make sense? But if you look at Bell, of course, a switch hitter with power. I know he had a bad 2020, but you know what? Maybe not a bad move. Get a switch hitter, at least a left-handed bat in there, which again, the Yankees are lacking.
Yeah, and the plan there, according to what I understand, is they would acquire Bell, Italian, then flip Voigt to the Indians for Lindor, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, and in terms of Lindor himself, I like him as a player. I just think, and he has 1 year left on the contract, so I feel like if you trade for him, great, you're going to get 1 year, but then he's going to go into free agency and he's going to want a big contract. So it's like, all right, maybe you get him for a year, but at some point you're going to have to unload, again, some serious money to get this guy after you're just spending a boatload on DJ. And of course, the year before, spent a boatload on, to get Garrett Cole.
Yeah. Well, a few things you have to consider. One, he's a lifetime diehard Yankees fan. He's going to want to sign long-term immediately, not wait. Two, the CBA coming up next year in 2021 is going to destroy the luxury tax. It's going to change the way teams look at financials and such.
Yeah, think of that. And one of the other, a couple of points you had in there is that you kind of feel that Herman is going to pretty much going to be traded away, just in terms of course,
Yeah.
He has a bad PR, but I don't know. I just think that maybe the Yankees would want to keep him around a little bit just to build up his value, or you just think they're going to try to ship him out as soon as possible?
I think they will hold on to him unless it's in the right deal, such as the Indians demand him as the last piece for Lindor or something like that.
Gotcha. And of course, and then one of the other points, which, kind of sad, but again, kind of makes sense, is that you make a point that, again, it's probably good, even Cashman Money's, said it pretty much out loud. It's goodbye Gaudy. I mean, really no interest in bringing him back.
Yeah, Cashman emphasized that, and Tanaka, he completely dodged the questions of both of them as if they're already gone. They're already told them. And their agents already indicated they've been told to look for another team.
So. Yeah. And I think that would make sense, again, as much as I like Gardner, he's a lifelong Yankee, but there's no room for him anymore. I mean, you got Clint Frazier out there and left. You got Tauchman to worry about. And plus you got Stanton, even though Stanton's really kind of a DH still, but maybe once in a while it wouldn't hurt to have Stanton out in the outfield just to give a Judge a night off in his field. So, yeah, I mean, overall would seem that unless something happens to Tauchman or Frazier, like, some crazy injury or something, probably, we probably saw the last of Brett Gardner in pinstripes.
And you also have to consider the Yankees are talking to Kyle Schwarber right now, which would block it even further.
Gotcha. Now, another interesting name, I heard for the Yankees was that they maybe be kicking the tires on Corey Kluber. Again, you're looking at a two-time former Cy Young Award winner, but he's coming off, basically back-to-back injury-filled seasons. Again, he only pitched like one inning last year. I mean, do you think it's worth bringing a guy back in, knowing the fact that you also have someone like Severino coming back from injury, which you're not 100% sure of? So, I mean, do you want like two, your person in your second and third person in your rotation where coming back from injury and, a lot of question marks around them?
Yeah, the Yankees are going to be the showcases this week. I'm not sure exactly what he's doing, but he's doing some showcases where he'll be pitching and everything. If he looks good enough there, I find myself taking a flyer on him because he could be a second ace in that rotation. I'm just very unsure if he's going to look good enough with the injury he had.
Gotcha. And they made this go that route because, again, I don't know if they would want to do, again, Trevor Bauer's name's out there, but he's going to, of course, want a longer commitment. With Kluber, you can maybe get away just a 1 year prove yourself sort of deal. So, yeah, even though he's, just coming back from injury, that just might be the wiser choice versus, Bauer, which you're going to have to give at least 5 or 6 years to, that.
The Bauer's actually demanding 8 years, $240 million. It's likely he's settled somewhere in 6 years, 7 years, or around $28 million. So that's going to be a big commitment there.
Gotcha. And in terms of, obviously now Tommy Kahnle is going to be gone. He obviously, missed the second half of 2020. He's pretty much going to look for free agency. So what name did, you had a couple of names out there that the Yankees might be pursued to sort of replace him as, another 6th or 7th inning guy?
The main one right now is Archie Bradley. They're the leading contender for him. He even indicated something with putting the CC Sabathia jersey on. A little weird for free agent to do that. Another name to keep an eye on is Jake Diekman. I could also see them trying the trade market. Josh Hader's going to come up again at some point. There's been rumblings. There's a few others. The Pirates have a few relievers. I can't remember the names off the top of my head. Liam Hendricks, the Yankees are in on him, but there's about 15 teams in on him, so that's going to be hard to do. And there's a few like that.
Yeah, I mean, the Yankees do need that extra arm, and I think that's what kind of cost them in the, the 2020 playoffs. I mean, they pretty much had Green, Britton, and Chapman, and that's it. And I think that, they kind of wore them a little thin. It would have been nice if Ottavino was effective, but he wasn't, again, for the second postseason in a row. And again, not having Tommy Kahnle, I think, it definitely hurt the Yankees. So they definitely need that extra arm. And it's just the way the game is this day. You need 5 or 6 guys. You can't just have 2 or 3 like, the late 90s, the Yankees just had like Mendoza, Nelson Stanton, and that's it. I mean, you need a whole plethora of 5 guys because, again, these starting pitchers just don't go 7 innings anymore, not even Cole.
Well, the advantage in the 90s, they had 4 starters who were going 7, 8 innings every game, so they didn't really need them.
Exactly, and it's just, the difference between the game now. So, and some Yankees that are, again, free agents right now floating around there. I thought the Yankees would bring back Tanaka, but it doesn't seem like they're really hot for them. I mean, do you have any feeling where if Tanaka will land back in pinstripes, or do you think he's just going to go elsewhere?
I think he's gone. He already has at least 5 deals, offers, according to his agent, at least $20 million a year. Yankees aren't going anywhere near that. Might be why Cashman refused completely to answer the question or whatever, because he knows he's gone. I don't think he's back at all. The new Japanese guy, Sugano, is more likely.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I always like Tanaka, but again, this could be a situation where it's just, there's no room for him anymore. And plus, you got get David Garcia up and coming. You have Clark Schmidt up and coming. And again, if he's got Severino coming back, you got Jordan Montgomery floating around. And again, if, why pay, and you might bring in a Kluber or a Bauer. it just seems like, yeah, there's probably no room for Tanaka anymore, especially if he's going to want like a multi-year deal and he's already like, 30, 32 already.
Tanaka turns 33 in January, and the Yankees don't like pitchers that old. Sabathia started losing it 34. So I think the Yankees are a little scared away there.
Actually, that's a good point. And I think that one of the bright spots, at least a little good news for the Yankees this offseason, is that, Gary Sanchez, who, just had a miserable 2020, especially during the playoffs, has been hitting the ball pretty well, down in the Caribbean League. So at least I think, that maybe just gives the Yankee fans a little breath of fresh air. Not that I think they would go after JT Realmuto, but at least to see Sanchez hitting again with some authority, hitting some home runs, at least, makes you feel a little better going to 2021.
Yeah, it does. If people think they're not MLB pitchers, 3 of the 4 guys he's coming off of are MLB pitchers and MLB bullpens. The others are AAA with the Rays. So these are not just scrub pitchers. They are doing something. The pitches themselves were kind of hangers, pretty bad pitches, though.
Gotcha. And also down there, obviously in the Caribbean League, the Yankees, Miguel Andujar, who again he's hitting, but of course, third base, that's Gio Urshela's spot. So, I mean, where do you see Andujar's possibly position on? Does he think he has a spot on the team next season, or you think he's destined to be traded?
He is one of the harder Yankees to figure out this offseason. Several teams have asked about him. The Brewers are really trying to get him. They've been drooling over him ever since he came up. Maybe we'll see an Andujar for Hader trade this year, or maybe Brandon Woodruff. We'll see. I don't think he's on the team come spring training. I think he's traded before then.
Gotcha. And, let's just going around the horn a little bit. Shortstop Torres, he defensively, he had a bit of a down season. Offensively, again, not as good as the year before, but he's still, he just turned like 24, still relatively young. I mean, you just think the Yankees would try to find a way to keep him, or is this, you think the Yankees rather have Lindor more and just going to find a way to ship out Torres?
Cashman left the door wide open there. When he was asked about it by Meredith Morakovitz, he immediately brought up his defense. Said that Hal is angry to get out that his defense is setting records amount of errors committed by the time he's been up. It's double the amount of any other shortstop. They're going to get another shortstop. They're looking left-handed bat, so it's likely Lindor. I don't think it'll be DJ LeMahieu. I don't think there's any chance of DJ coming back. Or not DJ. Come on, brain. Didi Gregorius. Sorry.
Yeah.
Similar names there. I think they get confused. But Didi Gregorius don't think he'll be back. I think it will be Lindor. I think it's an opportunity they can't pass up on. Hal is a major Lindor fan. He's loved it ever since he came up. It's very likely that happens. The least I see happening with Torres, go back to him, is moved back to second base. I think that's the least what will happen. Hal is done with him at shortstop. He made too many throwing errors, especially fielding errors. He easy plays, he botched them. So I think Torres at least move to second. I think it's very likely he does get traded, but it's going to be for a haul, like a Lindor and Carrasco trade type thing.
Yeah, because I mean, like 2 years ago, Torres at second base was fine. He was fine. And it's kind of weird because he came up through the minors as a shortstop. So you think going back there wouldn't be a big deal, but he struggled at shortstop. Again, second base he was pretty good. So possibly if some of these deals that you're talking about, pan out, I think you look at a Yankee lineup that possibly in the future, if you have Jonathan King, a switch hitter, Lindor, a switch hitter, Hicks, a switch hitter, and the Yankees, again, just traditionally going back to Bernie Williams, as they say, whether it's Nick Swisher, Mark Teixeira, Jorge Posada, love having 2 or 3 switch hitters in that lineup just to give, because the managers, whether you bring in a righty or lefty, it really doesn't matter. And the Yankees really been lacking that the past few seasons. The only switch hitter they've had was Hicks. Now, possibly if some of these deals go through, you're looking at 3 switch hitters, which, again, this makes the Yankees lineup just, that tougher to face, where right now they're just using the word right, way too right-handed.
And it's too easy to face them because the pitcher could just start throwing those down and away breaking balls. And I don't know what's wrong with Marcus Thames, where the guys aren't adjusting and spitting on him. They're swinging at him every time, and they know that's a scouting report. That's why the Yankees desperately need a power left-handed bat, Josh Bell, Lindor, to throw that off, get the pitcher thinking, and get him away from that just constant breaking ball down and away.
Gotcha. Now, moving over to the bullpen a little bit, just to getting to Chapman. This is now 2 seasons in a row where he's given up a big home run. I don't blame him for 2018 because, with the Astros doing, 2019 with the Astros doing with the science and things, stuff like that. But, this is 2 years in a row where he's given up a big home run, though, in a big spot. And it's like, you think he's going to start being a head case? You think, Yankee fans are going to have a short leash with him? How you think, his mindset is, in 2021?
That's a very good question. I've tried to think about that a lot. Again, 2019, that's a fluke. It's a ped user, cheater with the drums, whatever you want to call it. That's a fluke. This year, it was a little more fishy. A hitter who is not that good catches up with a 90-mile fastball after fouling off a changeup low. That's literally impossible. There's over 10 mile an hour difference. It doesn't matter where the next pitch is. The speed changes 10 miles an hour or more. It was 11-mile an hour difference here. This tells me the Rays are probably stealing signs. That's the only way he could adjust to catch up that pitch, not send it straight up for a pop out. I think it's more the Rays cheating with their bats. Their bats were impossibly good this year. They did not have the talent to do anything close to what they did. They are obviously stealing signs. I think there's more an issue of that, and Chapman knew it, than an issue with Chapman. However, the pitch he threw, 96 miles an hour down the pipe, was not a good pitch. It should have been a better pitch, but the previous pitch made an 83 mile an hour changeup, 84 mile an hour change, whatever it was, makes it a little bit more fishy and a little more the Rays are stealing signs and cheating than solely being on Chapman.
So you think we're talking about the with Broussard, correct?
Uh huh.
But so I mean, you think even with the stands and stuff, the Rays found a way to sort of be able to get steal signs somehow?
They have been all season. They're constantly hitting pitches that are literally impossible in baseball history to hit. It's been known throughout baseball history. If you change the location and speed right, the pitch is impossible to hit. There's no way for the human mind to adjust and hit it. That pitch was one of them. Change it low at the knees. He fouls it off straight down to the dirt. You can't adjust the bat fast to catch up with a 98 mile an hour fastball after a 80 mile an hour changeup. You have to know it's coming. And I don't think there's a way for him to have known that. So I think, and all if you go back and you look at all these Rays hitters, are not good hitters, especially Brazil the previous few years. Terrible hitter. I'm talking about 220 hitter, 230 hitter, maybe. Also, this year he bats over 300 out of nowhere. That's a sign of cheating somehow. We'll put it that way.
That's interesting. You're really like the first person to bring that up, and it kind of makes sense because in the Rays, their lineup is like again, there's no one really scares you in there in that lineup, but they've been hitting just good pitching, the whole season. They've kind of been gritty, but could be a case. Maybe they found something out, non-electronically to be able to because even look like like Shu was just like owning Cole. It's like how's this even possible?
Joy,
So
yeah.
you might be on something. It could be possible. Just maybe they found something out the way to do it non-electronically. So once again, Adam, it's a pleasure to speak with you. Thanks for sharing your story regarding your concussion. Again, I hope people go read your book and just read about because again, it's not just a football issue; it's a baseball issue, but really for all types of sports. It's a very serious issue. So thanks for sharing your story, and then thanks for giving us some time of your day.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thanks for having me.